Hello. So I believe this next book challenge one is a book that everyone has read, and it took me a while to find one, and I basically just googled books that everyone has read, and this one came up multiple times. A lot of the books that came up were ones I've already read, including 1984, which was my last book challenge video, as well as like Harry Potter and The Great Gatsby, which was another book challenge video, etc, etc. So I went with Pride and Prejudice, and I think I started listening to this years ago, but I always got to about chapter 10 and then gave up on it or restarted it for some reason. But this time I actually had an ebook, which is not the same as a physical copy, but I loved that I could read while walking, and I also had the audiobook. And actually I started off listening to a different audiobook than I ended up listening to, and I loved the first one and I definitely preferred it over the second. However, the way it was broken up in the tracks was so much harder to then follow along in the book, whereas the other one was just by chapter and it was so much easier, so I just had to go with that to be able to sort of figure out where I was each time I swapped over. I really enjoyed it, but the way I would describe it is it reminded me of Little Women, but the less good version. And that's only because I love Little Women and I don't think anything that compares to Little Women is ever going to be better than Little Women. I hope I'm proven wrong. I'd love to read a great book, but just because of how much I love Little Women, it just didn't reach quite the same standard. And I think again, listening to it probably detracted a little bit because I was listening to it whilst I was packing up the entire house. And as much as I was listening, I was also stressing about packing up the entire house. So I'd zone in and out quite a bit. And I kind of feel like I have a general idea of the plot and the characters, but definitely I feel like there are things people could tell me that were in the book that I just absolutely would have missed, and I do regret that. Maybe I should take the note and stop listening to audiobooks, but then I'm listening to one now and I'm so engrossed in it, and it's just so convenient. I did enjoy the book. I think I gave it somewhere between 3.5 and 4.25 stars. That's one thing I love about Storygraph. You can do 0.25s, and I would recommend it if you haven't read it because it is such a classic. And I did enjoy it. It wasn't a bad book. It wasn't dislikable. I liked the characters. It was enjoyable. It just wasn't Little Women. And I wouldn't always compare one book to another, but it was just because they did feel really similar. And then I'm like, well, if we've got Little Women, why do we need Pride and Prejudice? Which is so unfair because Pride and Prejudice is great, and I don't want to detract from that. Anyway, there's another book challenge video for you. Enjoy, and again, I will see you in the next one. Bye!